This episode of Blue Grit Podcast is sponsored by NEP Solutions, proud Ruby sponsors for the 2024 Tmpa Texas FOP Conference.
And you remember the sights, the smells, and the EMS crew showed up. And I remember some things, some inaction or some action that happened there that really pissed me off. And I remember yelling at one of them, "Hey, look, this is my guy, I need your best." But we did CPR for 25, 28 minutes and finally transported him, and he passed away at the hospital.
Welcome back, viewers, watchers, listeners. I'm your host, Tyler Owen. I got a co-host in the house today. Welcome back, John Sariga.
Thank you, Tyler Owen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. We are coming off conference. This is the first, by the way, the 2024 Tmpa Texas FOP Conference was an absolute success, and I am just now today feeling 100%. What about you?
Yes, I took Monday afternoon off, and Tuesday off.
Well, but for you, like an off day is not really like a 100% off day. But
that's true.
You kind of laid low.
Yeah, but those are long days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the staff.
Yep.
They're 18-hour days.
Yeah.
And we're a little run down after. But like you said, it was the best conference we've ever had.
Ever.
Joint conference with FOP.
Yep.
And our attendance was the highest ever. Had great events for the spouses.
Yep.
Did painting with a twist one day. Purse bingo
Huge
the other
success.
day.
Shout out to Daryl Lasoya for putting all that together. But yeah, it was a great event. Also,
and raised about $70,000 for TMPA charities.
I heard that.
The most ever. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Great conference.
We got a couple people to give shouts out to because we couldn't do it without them. But first off, the Ruby sponsors for our conference, the McLean Advisors, and also NEP Solutions. They were the Ruby sponsors for this conference, so we greatly appreciate it. We absolutely could not do the work we do at conferences because of our sponsors, and so huge shout out to you guys that sponsor the event. Also, speaking of charities, Lawncraft, past president of TMPA, significant donation for our scholarship accounts, and so you meet people that love this organization, that have served this organization, that aren't in leadership roles anymore because they've moved on to other things, but continue to do or serve. And Lon's never swayed from that. So thank you, past president Lawncraft. He and his wife are going to be coming on to talk about the scholarship and kind of what their intentions are and so forth. So,
great people.
Yeah, and I think we had an election this past weekend.
Yes, we did.
Congratulations also to TMPA President Ken Gardner and Texas FOP President, our very own Blue Grit Podcast host, Clinton McNear, who could not be here today because he's got some other stuff going on, not just with FOP, but TMPA. So it was a good weekend.
Absolutely.
It was a good weekend.
Absolutely.
Why don't you intro our guest?
Well, Devin Vyner, former TMPA employee, current sergeant at Bertram PD, and a longtime TMPA member. And that's actually what we're here to talk about today is Devin's experience over many, many years.
14 of them, yeah.
14
it's been
years
a minute.
in TMPA.
It's been a minute.
Legal defense, you've indulged
times,
in that.
a couple times,
You've been involved in the political side of things with us.
Yeah.
I think the charitable side, we'll talk about a line of duty death at your department, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, welcome, Devin.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and hang out with you guys this morning.
Absolutely. You said something a while ago. You said that, back to the family aspect of this place. If you don't live inside Austin and you're ever in the Austin area and you ever want to come by, visit, or just visit with your field rep, this organization has transitioned. Not that it didn't have the family atmosphere before, but I think we're more focused and a bit more vigilant on the family atmosphere and becoming a family. And you mentioned it a while ago of some past field reps. You have a really good relationship with John Wilkerson, as we all do. And so when you said that, it kind of speaking back at conference, like my kids went and they were talking about the family atmosphere, and Uncle John, and man, it just means a lot. So when you said that, it kind of I just want to reaffirm that.
Yeah, and it's really unintentional. I mean, these don't start off, I think like most guys, we kind of stick to ourselves and kind of really fostering healthy, especially male friendships for us is difficult for me at least. And it was, I've been a TMPA member, been a cop for 14 years. And from my first phone call, 11 months into my career where, you're in crisis and you're panicking because you're brand new baby police and you may or may not have made a mistake and you don't know if this is the end of your career at the beginning of your career.
Yeah.
Picking up that phone to make that call and still seeing those people, whether they're here at TMPA or not, they're still in the area. The guy that picked up the phone that day is a Wilco deputy right now. And it's interesting that you unintentionally really kind of build these relationships. And, aside from, we'll go into it, I'm sure later, but aside from, it being a necessity to make that phone call and to build those things, unintentionally, they kind of offshoot into, phone calls and driveway hangouts and bourbon night and co-teaching together and things that don't have anything to do with class or anything to do with work.
Well, yeah.
And those things really, it's surprising to me still how everything's kind of intertwined and how deeply involved, in one way or another, being a part of this association has been for me in my personal and professional life.
That's awesome. Well, we typically like to start off the podcast because I don't want to dive into a rabbit hole. Clint's always in my butt about me rabbit holing beforehand. So we typically like to dive off into who you are, where you grew up, how'd you get involved with law enforcement, where'd you start off at, and then we'll kind of quote unquote rabbit hole into some certain situations that TMPA has assisted you on through your law enforcement career.
Yep. Well, I'm nothing special. I don't come from a family of law enforcement. Quite the opposite. And
Outlaws.
Yeah, they like to there's been a couple that like to dabble.
Agree.
But you can't control them. But yeah, first cop in my family. It really kind of, some family members really took on, that's great, really supportive role, and some others sent some inappropriate messages, and we don't talk to them anymore, which is fine. Yep. Part of the deal. But yeah, I've been a cop for 14 years. I did about a year in Georgetown and then 9 out in Burnett, and now I've done shooting 4 now in Bertram. I did take 2 years off and came to teach full time for the LEL grant, the Law Enforcement Liaison grant here at Tmpa. That is one of the TxDOT grants. So I reached out to my chief. I was a reserve sergeant in Bertram at the time. I reached out to my chief there and I'm like, hey, I'm looking at getting back in full time. And he essentially said, hey, I'll create a sergeant's position if you'll come work for me. I'm like, all right. He made the money work. The city was gracious enough to allow that to happen, and I came back to working full time for him, and it's been wonderful ever since. I left.
For the listeners that don't know where Bertram is, and explain like the culture or the population and kind of the demographics.
If you blink, you're through it. So we are. If you know where Georgetown is, so we're in Austin right now. Drive 30 minutes north. You're in Georgetown, just after Round Rock. If you get on Highway 29 and drive west another 20 minutes, you're going to hit Bertram. We're right between Liberty Hill and the city of Burnett.
And if you don't slow down, you'll probably get a speeding ticket.
Oh, yeah. You're going to see a white Ghost Graphic Explorer, and you're going to see a familiar face in it. I do a lot of traffic enforcement. I have a good time stopping cars.
On 29 out there, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
People
it's a raceway. You can
there.
toss a rock and hit 10 people going 15 over. It's incredible.
But that place that area is blowing up.
It is. So I live in Liberty Hill, and, funny story, I ran for office there also, and that didn't go as successfully as I had hoped, but not by much.
Just recently?
Yeah, I ran for mayor in Liberty Hill. It was a special election for a 1-year unexpired term. And I was running against a current council member and somebody who's got a long-standing family there. And I was essentially unknown. And
new blood. It's good for him.
I lost by 20 votes, which I think is respectable.
Yeah.
And we'll see. From there, I still get to serve the city. I got appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission there, so I'm a commissioner on that and get to see plats and all kinds of really exciting things like that. But yeah, the place is blowing up. Excuse me. People are trying to move out there and get away from Travesty County, and trying to get out there and build a life out there for their families that's a little bit more conducive to family life.
Yeah.
It's a great place to work. It's a great place to live. Bertram is getting more and more of those people that are fleeing Austin or even California, things like that, and planting roots out there. And it's been great. And the city's been growing like crazy. I mean, like I said, I did most of my policing in Burnett, and for a lot of my career, Bertram was kind of that place. You're like, ooh. They had, a chief and some reserves, and you'd hear stories. And now, with Chief Gal coming in there, he's really turned this place around. We have a force of professionals now, and it's been been a delight. We have 9 full-time cops now. When we're staffed, we have 1 position that is unfilled currently, but we have an officer in our school there. We have an elementary school there. But it's been...
Are they 3A or 4A, Bertram?
So they're Burnett CISD, so they're 5A.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been a great experience. I made a joke earlier off camera that I've been a cop for 14 years now, and go figure, it's a tiny hill country agency that has finally given me a Ghost Graphics car. Which, look, hey, I know a lot of you started policing because you wanted to help people, and that's what you tell people. I'm not going to bullshit you. I wanted to carry a gun and drive fast, and along the way, you help people and realize that there's a lot of value and worth in that. But still, that there's fun to it. Also, we can admit that. And it was time to get a new vehicle last year, and Chief was like, "Hey, most agencies are finding good vehicles," and he's like, "Hey, they've got a twin turbo Explorer. They have an Interceptor SUV, but it's white. We don't have white vehicles." And he was like, "We can wrap it black and then put our graphics on it, or we can leave it white and leave it unmarked, or we can maybe put some ghost graphics on it." And look, I buy shit all the time because it's cool. I want cool things too, just like all of us do. And when he said ghost graphics, I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool!" Like I like it. So he went to council and asked him like, "Hey, how do y'all feel about this?" And they essentially got he stops cars, let's do it. And like I said, go figure, it's a 9-man agency in the hill country, halfway through my career that put me in my favorite car I've ever driven.
Yeah.
It's been, I was in a pursuit. I was working, funny segue, I was working STEP, Strategic Traffic Enforcement, which is a TxDOT grant funded overtime to stop cars. We have those grants, go figure, because that was also half the job as an LEL was to promote the STEP program and to help administer the STEP program. But I was in town working STEP last Friday, and one of the bailiffs in Burnett had a guy escape custody from him and get into a pursuit eastbound in the Bertram. And I was on duty only because of STEP, being paid by TxDOT to be there. And the white CRV zooms past me, and now I'm number 2 in the pursuit, calling it for the bailiff who's in pursuit. We end up, we get up to like 130, and my vehicle it's catching up and it's staying with it, man. There's no problems here. There were some other deputies that were trying to catch up and couldn't. So just me and the bailiff all the way into Liberty Hill, where the guy turned into a business park and ended up surrendering because it was a dead end. So it ended as great as it could have, as best as it could have. And the best part about it, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall in that courtroom. So he escaped in the district court, right? And instead of taking him to jail, he went right back to the district court in front of the same judge he just ran from. God, I wish I could have been there. Would have been great. I heard it was good.
So we'll segue from the pursuit into Burnett's, where the incident took place.
Which one?
You've had a couple incidents. The
situation.
Yeah,
that was explaining.
Yeah, so like I said, I did most of my career in Burnett, and we had, when I started, I think 16 cops, and now they're pushing 23, 24. I still have a great relationship with several people there. A lot of command. One of the admin lieutenant, with one of my academy mates.
I've heard a lot of good things about Burnett PD.
Yeah, man.
And so I'll say this lovingly, like me and John can identify, and the other field reps. When we start getting calls and it's continuous from one agency, we know there's a leadership
smoke
problem.
there.
There's a problem, right?
Issues, yep.
Burnett, we don't have that many.
Burnett really turned it around. Chief Lee is their current chief now, and he's an outstanding human being. And not because, it's a neighboring agency, but I know the man. And he has done wonders for that police department. They have needed someone like that for a long time. And his leadership has really done wonderful things there. It's a great place to work. I know the guys there. We actually lost our detective last year, or I guess January of this year, to Burnett through attrition. And he went over there, and it's a great place to be at. Like I said, I did most of my policing there. It was under a different chief, which is part of the reason Tmpa was so involved in my life. But it was it was a great career there. We did made several phone calls. I've always been told, especially my current chief now, he's like, "Hey, look, if you're not getting complained on, you're probably not doing your job." Yep. We all know how to avoid complaints. We all know how to avoid IAs. If I sit in a parking lot, they're going to pay me the same amount of dollars as if I go out and stop 20 cars today.
Well, and that statement's true, with the exception of leadership.
Absolutely.
And administration.
Absolutely.
If we get complaints,
I don't have that luxury.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And it's, in fact, that's part of one of the reasons that I got a little bit of slack, because when you work, you're going to work for me. Like, you're going to work. I want you to do the job. I don't need a rock star. I would love a rock star, but I just need somebody who's going to show up and do the job that they're paid to do. When it's going to be a continued issue of, hey, look, get out there. It starts becoming a supervisory issue. And now you're gonna make me have to do some things. And look, I'm still a cop's cop too. Being a first line supervisor is the best job in this job. You get to be a cop, but also you understand the bigger picture as well. Your job is to, much like the LEL program was to be the intermediary between cops and TxDOT, your first line supervisor job is to be a real cop, but also understand the command staff side of things and to help make your troops understand that as well. So, we had several phone calls throughout my time there where I'd call Tmpa either for advice or not. And then in 2017, we had an OIS. And I won't speak much on that in detail, but it was a Friday and I'd just gotten off. 3 a.m. that morning. So I just got my babies because I have them every day I'm off. And I said babies are 13, 11, and 9 now, but they were a little bit younger back then. And one of the troops on duty then got into a shooting, and my captain called me. He's like, "Hey, can you come in? We need the extra gun." So I came in, got the extra gun out of the safe because we issued firearms back then, and kind of was first to watch the video as well. And that was interesting. I had to make a timeline of the shooting, and the chief showed up with the patrol captain and came in and looked at the timeline and watched the video and then left without saying anything. That officer did end up getting charged and got a hung jury, I think, last year. And I think the DA has re-indicted on a different charge, but I'm not sure that's going anywhere. But I don't know. I'm not intimately aware of that.
It's still pending. Yeah.
Who's handling that?
New DA.
Okay.
No,
Travis Williams and Robert Rogers out of Dallas.
Yep.
Okay.
When that happened, it was a eye-opening for all of the officers at Burnett, not necessarily with like the risk we faced because we got into a shooting, but with the risk you face with administration. No shooting is a good shooting. I don't care what happened. No shooting is one you want to be a part of.
Yep.
We don't ever want to have to do that job, but sometimes, unfortunately, we're forced to. And to see what administration did, specifically, we'll just say administration did, they wanted to terminate the employee even before it went to grand jury, which I pleaded with the chief. I'm like, you can't do this. It's going to set him up. It's going to be that much easier to be like, well, I mean, he's already terminated. Well, of course he's going to be indicted now. And that got there's some very public admonishment in our department meetings, and so much that our city manager pulled me aside and apologized separately. But your job, again, he wasn't my troop, but your job is to fight for the troop also, while also understanding the bigger picture. And we actually lost. He did eventually get terminated, and after being charged, which is fine. That's neither here nor there. But we lost another great troop because he saw what happened. He quit law enforcement altogether, went to go deliver medical supplies. Thank God he's back in it now, and he's actually in the area too, and I get to see him at work sometimes. But those things influence more than just the people involved directly in that kind of critical incident. And what's wonderful about Tmpa at the time, I called, and ended up being JW got a hold of McCabe, and McCabe came out and did an officer rights class for us, completely free.
Those are so important.
Oh my gosh, I learned so much.
Yep.
And it's I'm sure y'all understand it. Attorneys aren't cheap. Y'all know intimately, but
We pay the bills.
When JW is like, hey, we have to attach it to somebody's membership, you're probably going to get an invoice. It's not something you have to pay, but it's got to be billed to somebody. And then that invoice came in. I'm like, wow, that's the investment that they're putting in us after this kind of incident. No matter, it's already been and is continuing to be an investment that the Tmpa is putting into that particular incident. And now we're 4 years later. I mean, it's been a minute. But to spend more money on the front end, to tell the other officers at Burnett, hey, here's what happens. Here's what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing when you get into an incident such as this. And a lot of cops don't understand that we see ourselves as the same team, right? Well, when you're sitting down with a DA investigator about something that maybe might not be a good idea to say as much as you want to say. And it's important to know what you have to and what you should.
Absolutely.
What we notice probably way too far off, I mean, it happens too often, is when the members will call right after an incident. We have had field reps that have been on calls with members that you can still hear shots being fired in the background where they've shot at somebody, which, hey, thank you.
Hey,
thank you for believing in us that much.
You drilled it in their head.
Like a
Call them, yeah.
But our point is that when they call, we 3 or 4 years ago collectively were like, is this happening to you? Oh yeah. Well, is this happening? So we all got together and were like, look, make sure when these guys or females call that their damn body cam is not still going, because we don't want. Great example. If you just got in a shooting and your adrenaline's up, John is going to come up to you and say, what? Man, are you good? You good? What happened?
And then word vomit.
And then boom. Or your supervisor gets there. Are you okay? You okay? Okay. What happened? And you're continuing to record. So we have trained, but the flip side of that is that if I walk up, you being supervisor, and there's a face camera of me walking up going and turning it off, the perception to the DA's office is going to be that we're trying to hide something.
Absolutely.
So we always train, wait for first on supervisor to get there or some type of supervisor, explain what happened. That this is the time, this is the date. I'm Sergeant Owen, blah, blah, blah. we are now going to discontinue the body cam because there's no evidentiary value, and then place that person in a secured spot.
Yep. Put them with a buddy.
Yeah, and so
get that public safety statement from them.
That word's getting out. We're seeing it less and less.
Right.
But if I could give advice, and anybody's listening to this podcast, that would be my number one is, listen, we all got in this profession because we love to serve. But at that time, the best thing you can do to serve your buddy is not ask him that question and shut up.
Absolutely. Shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That was one of the things that, when Robert McCabe came out and did our class, I remember sitting there going, oh, my gosh, I didn't know that. I'm taking notes like crazy because it's my job as these guys' supervisor to also make sure that they're not doing dumb things like that.
Well, kudos to you for doing
I'm not going to ask them the questions that's going to goad them into saying something they're not supposed to. But at the same time, hey, your word vomit's going to get you in deeper trouble.
Yeah.
Potentially. And even if it's a all on the up and up great shoot, there might be something wrong administratively that happens that they might try to hang you on because shootings are bad for any agency. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was wonderful to have him come out and teach that class for free for the agency. It didn't cost the agency anything. It cost Tmpa a pretty good penny, but it taught 15 cops, hey, y'all just went through this. Here's how it could have been handled better.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful. And now I use that, we're 8 years past that. No, not that. I'm just kidding. We're, 5-6 years past that now. And it still pays that one class pays dividends in the people that I supervise now and the coworkers that I work with. I love being useful. I'm not better than anybody, but I love having, I've got 14 years in. There's some things that I specialize in that are awesome and I have a good time, but I still get phone calls from people that aren't even my troops. Like, hey, I got a question on this. Oh yeah, it's great. I had somebody come out to me and was like, hey, the DA investigator wants me to sit down with them and ask him about an issue here at this agency. Okay. Have you been Red Garrity? No. Miranda? No. So it's just like a voluntary interview? Yeah. Probably not a great idea. I mean, you do what you want to do, but here's what I can see happening potentially. It could be completely above board, innocuous, like bro time, like, let's talk. But it could not be. And you can say some things that can get you charged.
Yeah,
potentially, right? Essentially, we'd hope there's no wrongdoing and no criminal culpability there, but you don't know.
Yeah.
So having those conversations with just people you care about, other agencies that you work around, like, hey man, here's what you probably should be doing. Again, make your own decision. I'm not your boss on some of these, but I've learned so much just from having these critical incidents and having to go through them either directly or indirectly, that you're able to really spread that knowledge to the upcoming troops too.
Well, while you were at Burnett, you guys also had a line of duty death, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Let's talk about that.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm not afraid to cry. So if I tear up, I don't care. That's actually the shirt I picked today anyway. So it was December of 2019 and because the dates kind of mixed, 20th of 19. Yeah, December 20th of 2019. And I came on early. It was a Friday. And my one of my day shift troops, I just moved from supervising nights to going to days. I'd actually recently got divorced and finally decided to use that seniority to reluctantly take a day shift spot because I was a night shift cop for every year before that. Didn't want anything different. I had seniority before that, but didn't want it. And we only had 2 sergeants at the time that kind of spanned 3 to 3. And we had just added 2 more sergeants. So we truly had a daytime supervisor and nighttime supervisor. So I went to supervising days, and one of my daytime troops, we actually had like a 1 hour early show up. So you staggered shifts and can get the late ones coming from nights. And we had a miscommunication. So we both showed up early, a little bit after 4 o'clock in the morning, and a medical call dropped right around the corner from where our police department was located at the time. And we, like most agencies, we don't go to med calls unless we're requested, but for divine intervention, that's the only thing I can explain. We decided we were going to that one. And I was first on scene, and I remember turning on to, it's a short cul-de-sac, short dead-end street that's got, 7 houses on it. And I remember looking to the right, looking at mailboxes, trying to find a damn address. And as you're kind of making your way around, I looked to my left and saw the correct address on the mailbox and saw what ended up being Jose's widow standing in the doorway of their carport. I'm like, oh, shit. So throw it in park, run past her, and find my officer who worked for me for the year before that. He again just started getting supervised by a different sergeant at the time, but we'd had a year together. Found him in the restroom and got him on his back and started CPR. And we pumped on him for what felt like an hour, but it ended up being 20 something minutes. It's crazy what you remember, and look, the stigma is gone now in law enforcement. That's what we're pushing now too. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to have critical incidents, and it's okay to talk about it. And there's so many things out there that are more than we can handle by ourselves. And that incident was, in particular, definitely one of them. and you remember the sights, the smells, and the EMS crew showed up. And I remember some things, some inaction or some action that happened there that really pissed me off. And I remember yelling at one of them, "Hey, look, this is my guy. I need your best." And I didn't get the response that I was hoping for. But we did CPR for 25, 28 minutes and finally transported him, and he passed away at the hospital. Turns out he ended up he was our canine handler, and he had gone through canine training the entire day before, on that Thursday before, with his partner.
What time of year was it?
December. So it was December, I guess they would have done their canine training December 19th. So they did. And if you've ever caught a dog, it'll wear your butt out. So it was, or I've never run a dog, but I've supervised 2 handlers at this point. So I know it is strenuous. It'll tax you, even when it's cooler outside in December. But he had told his partner, like, "Hey man, I'm not feeling great. Kind of as the night went on, and he was having to stay up overnight because he was working the weekend nights, right? So he's got to get that schedule right. And was playing video games and things like that. But he ended up having a heart attack, is what the ultimate cause of death was. And I remember.
And how long after the training ended did he have the heart attack?
16 hours.
And that's important when,
Yeah,
when we talk about death benefits.
Absolutely. And that was, God, so eye-opening also, that whole experience. And I'm sure we'll go into that briefly, but he was kind of declining state, mentioned it, whatever. And then the next day, that morning, had a heart attack. And I remember standing in the ER, and I got on the phone and called JW. I'm like, "Hey man, here's what happened." He goes, "All right, great. Not great. Excuse me." He goes, "All right, this is a line of duty thing." And I remember going, "He died at home. What do you mean?"
Right.
He's like, "No, the proximity to his canine training and how taxing that can be." And then I remember telling the chief at the time, like, "Hey, this is line of duty, and here's why." And he was also like, "Oh." And then the struggle with dealing with the workers' comp and the state benefits and then the Fed benefits. I was actually assigned to the widow as a liaison there, and it was for a while. And then it went to another guy there who's their captain now, great dude. And they initially, I think, declined state benefits, saying it wasn't line of duty, and Fed benefits were approved. And that's, if you've never done this, there's 2 completely separate entities that decide this. I had no idea, and also the process is not short.
The decision at the state level goes to ERS.
Yeah.
And then at the federal level, it's PSOB, Public Safety Officer Benefits.
So
and they don't talk.
No. And what one finds doesn't have to be the finding of the other.
Correct.
And again, the issue was, okay, well, he wasn't at work. Well, again, drawing that nexus between here was a training that led up to, that was a precursor for the heart attack. And so,
How old was he?
30, I think it just turned 30.
Oh, wow.
And one thing that I would, if I can jump in, if the initial ruling is a denial, that can be appealed.
Absolutely.
And that's really
part of the story,
important for survivors to know, is that it is appealable. And very often we prevail on appeal.
It was, from what I understand, his partner, who had pre-existing heart stuff, reached out to his cardiologist, who's, I think, is he still a Cedar Park lieutenant? Scheinberg?
Wow. Oh, Scheinberg. Actually, we just gave Scheinberg an award at our conference.
Oh, well, yeah.
For all the work he's done.
So Jose's partner had his own heart doctor and was seeing him regularly, completely absent of law enforcement. And they reached out to Scheinberg, who, I guess he's a reserve lieutenant for Cedar Park. But
he's at Travis County now.
Oh, forgive me. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's a full-time cardiologist, but also a cop. And he has a passion for law enforcement and making sure our hearts are healthy.
Absolutely.
And Hootie reached out to Dr. Scheinberg and said, "Hey, state denied. Can you do anything about this?" And the way the story was told to me is that absolutely. He writes a letter to SOA, sends it into the State Office of Administrative Hearings for their appeal for state benefits, and without another hearing, overturned their previous decision, and now it's approved.
Wow.
And the state benefits really, there's different things that those influence, as far as property taxes and state-funded education.
Kids going to college.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was the real big one, and fortunately that was easily overturned, but it took a little bit of a fight. It was 2 years later before things were finally settled. And at that point, I just started at Tmpa as an LEL, and now that he was officially approved, Jose's name was going on the wall at DC during Police Week. And again, hey, he's gonna get a huge hit from hearing all this JW this, JW that. But this is the man that's really been, you know, influential in both my career and my personal life because of this association. That's where the original relationship came from, and then it became a close friendship after that. But JW reached out and he's like, hey man, Jose's going on the wall this year. Tmpa is already going to pay for my room and stuff. If you want to cover these parts of expenses, it doesn't cost anything for you to come sleep in the room. So I tagged along with him and went to DC that year to see Jose's name on the wall, to be a part of the memorial. And that was, for me, it was a huge.
It's an experience.
It wasn't a closure thing for me, but it was part of the story that I needed to see.
Yep.
And that was incredible. And that was, again, indirectly a Tmpa thing. I wouldn't have gone otherwise.
Yeah.
And that was the healing part of my heart that got broken that day, and the trauma that's incurred from having to pump on your own guy for a while.
Yeah.
And, you know, several other people came in kind of during we started trading out, but it's still, like, you know, I remember the things that were said. I remember, you know, the things I told him, you know, whether he was still with us or not at the time is irrelevant, but it was a Tmpa thing that put me there to be able to honor him and to be a part of that. And I needed that for me too. So again, we have our OIS, and then we have a line of duty death. And unfortunately, there's some things which I guess it probably wouldn't be proper to go too much into detail, but some things happened after the line of duty death that were improper that then necessitated retirement from the chief at the time. And that, again, without going into detail, was a Tmpa thing. You know, a conversation occurred that shouldn't have occurred. And I picked up the phone and called JW. I'm like, here's what just happened. He said, absolutely not. He hangs up, calls city manager, calls concerns of police survivors, calls, there was another one. He makes several phone calls. The next morning, this individual is on admin leave, and that following Friday, he's retired.
No shit.
Actually, if I recall correctly, JW actually put in a lot of work, had some really good communications with the city manager.
Had built an awesome relationship with the city manager directly so that he could pick up the phone and say these things. And that's, again, a Tmpa thing. That's the job. It's relationships.
Yeah, and actually, in that situation, a lawyer was not the best solution. It was a field rep doing what JW did.
Yep. Shoot, he should have been here for this. So he can just sit over there and,
Well,
you know.
today is he, you know, he wears so many hats, just like all of our field reps and staff does. But he's up in Waco doing a burst class.
Okay.
Waco ISTP. But anyway, no, he's special to us. He's J-Dub. You know, sometimes we want to hurt him just because he's so aggressive and he's so passionate, and sometimes that passion we can interpret differently. But he's a great guy and huge asset to this organization.
Well, you know, that boy's got a thick accent. So you hear him speak at first, or you hear him show up with this high and tight. You're like, all right, buddy, what hayseed thing you going to say? Yeah. But he's super knowledgeable. Like he's a wise man.
I can't think of a better team really at the Capitol than John Sariga, Mitch Landry, Brian Flatt.
Yep. Brian just got over there. Yeah, I love Brian too.
Legislative liaison, and then John Wilkerson. Man, they hit the ground running. And so it's again, back to, if you've ever been involved with the Capitol, if you put the work into this association or you know, reaching out, we can help you out. But the team at the Capitol, if you guys are ever interested, I would strongly encourage you guys to reach out and go down there with us.
We'd love to have the members come down and walk the halls with us.
And the state reps and senators love to see cops there testifying and helping with bills.
Yep.
And it's an interesting. Yeah, but JW's he's JW.
You know, even Brian, he just went over to that position.
Yep.
With JW, and he left as a training coordinator. Yep. He was Tmpa's training coordinator.
10 years.
And he was also influential in my professional development. He was my first line supervisor class that I ever went to. He was
great instructor. Brian was a great instructor.
And he's a good human too. Like that's a good dude.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
I like him, not just because he's a guy that gives us some free training and stuff, but I like the dude. And we were doing a patrol rifle instructor course just a few months ago out in Burnett. He was an instructor for me on that one. We did I can't remember what it was. It's like a reactive target training where they put up those big foil reflective things, and you shoot at what are real people, but not. It's like
it's in the mirror.
It's angles thing.
Yeah.
And I remember him as a part of that too. Like it's funny. It's like these people pop up in your life over and over and over again and develop you into a good cop, but that feeds into your personal life too. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to earn respect of your peers.
Yep.
It takes very little to lose it, and I'm grateful for the pouring of professionalism that Tmpa has done for me as a cop, as a supervisor, and it's made me a better man too. Yeah. You know, I see good examples of people who I think are great people, and whether it's instruction methods or whether it's just how you interact with each other on breaks. You know, I when I left Burnett, I taught damn near full time. It was still an adjunct position, but I taught a ton up at CTC's Police Academy, at Central Texas College in Killeen. And again, that opportunity was only afforded because of the relationships that I'd built. So I'd be there, that's actually how the LEL position kind of came about. Is I was teaching firearms for the academy with JW, and I see the position pop up. I'm like, what is this? I've never even heard of this. He's like, you'd be great for that. Put in for it. And that's kind of how that started for a couple of years, that when I got to be an employee here, and it was awesome. It's just, it's when I sat back, when we had originally talked about this interview, I had a lot of time to reflect, even in 2 days. And it's crazy how much influence that this association has had in me. But yeah, it's the investment that I've made in being a member for 14 years it pales in comparison to the investment that they put in me.
Yeah.
And it's been great to be a part of not just a law enforcement family, but this association's family. And it's to be able to come to other officers that are either going through critical incidents or see other people go through them, and they're like, hey man, what should I do? You're like, hey, look, you can make your own choices, but I can tell you my stories, and you can decide from that. And if you still choose somebody else, then that's on you. I'll still be here to take your phone call and be like, hey man, that sucks. But at the end of the day, the relationships that are built here and among people in this room or in the training environments where they come out and teach for free for you or for very low cost. I remember we had Tmpa out, time after time out in Burnett to come teach us a topic. It doesn't matter what. And it's, hey man, it's just $100 for the day or whatever the number was. I'm like, really? To send 20 cops through plus outside agencies? Like, yeah, just, cover the original tuition cost and we'll make it work. We're bettering all these officers for such a low, it's worth its money.
Low amount.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I can tell you on behalf of majority of the staff here is all prior law enforcement. Really, being from Texas or not, really didn't give a shit. But the fact that if you're a cop and you serve in this capacity, what we do on this end, it truly is an honor to wake up every single day and do and have the ability, because of our members, do what we get to do. It's awesome. It is the best job. Our supervisors are amazing, and so the employees.
You're amazing.
Yeah,
wow.
The employees truly do have a passion.
Budget time's coming up.
I knew it. Oh, yeah.
I knew he was going to try to blame
Checks
it on
out.
something, but anyway, man, I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great. Since you've never been exposed to Blue Grip, but just a little bit, I'm glad that you didn't study for the practice exam.
Oh, there's a test.
There is a test. There's 3 rapid fire questions.
Oh, great. Hold on. Let me take a swig of my bourbon. I'm kidding. It's tea. It's tea.
Yeah. What is
Probable cause.
favorite?
Oh, damn.
Your favorite line from a cop movie or your favorite cop movie? What is your favorite all-time best patrol car and your favorite drink of choice?
Oh, I'll go the easy one first. Well, second easy. I'm a bourbon guy. I had a buddy that turned me on to bourbon, not just like, hey, I drink Jack. Jack's not bourbon. That's whiskey. They are different.
Yep.
They are different. Now I have a bourbon rack that's got thousands of dollars of bourbon just stacked up on it. I was in a previous relationship where they're like, you have too much alcohol. Yeah, but I'm not drinking it.
Yeah.
Like, if I were drinking it, it would be a problem. I like to look at it. I love having people over, like having the boys over and like, hey, let's crack this bottle. It's a bonding thing for us. Just like, midnight coffee time with all the agencies at Stripes. That's bonding time. You're building relationships.
Yeah.
Same thing with bourbon. It's a bourbon thing for me. It's a guy thing. It's a relationship thing for me. So having the guys over to crack a new bottle, love me some bourbon. And this guy, John got me hooked on, old fashions.
Yep.
He was the first person ever. And then
He loves his
drink.
old fashions.
so now I'll take a bottle of bourbon. If I don't like it neat, then I'll make an old fashioned out of it and drink the rest of it. So
The best place to get an old fashioned, and it was all of us. We were all together, the fam, I'll call it, right?
The fam.
In Houston at the Houston
Marriott
Marriott.
Marquis. Yep.
My gosh, they smoke them. Everybody's had smoke. That was when really they started becoming really hot and heavy.
Yeah, I hadn't. That was the first place I saw smoked old
Yeah,
fashioned.
and my wife got the smoked margarita,
Oh,
and it was awesome.
Okay.
Anyway, if you're ever down
I just started changing it up at the house. Instead of using like the simple syrup, I'll use brown sugar and muddle that in the bottom. And then of course you got to get good cherries.
I got to tell you this funny story. So I live in Wimberley, and so we're at this bar hanging out. It's a bar, but it's got a family atmosphere.
right.
Very common in Central Texas. Okay, so don't look at me all crazy. And so they had a really young waitress that was a Texas State student, and so she didn't know that there's a difference in woods. And so what's prevalent in Wimberley? It's mesquite. And so she smokes an old fashioned with mesquite wood.
Mesquite.
Like, I'm not talking about shit that she got at the store.
Oh, like it's crackling and popping as she's.
Like the shit came out of the yard of the bar.
She chopped a tree down with her bare hands to make your old fashioned.
And so, well, it wasn't mine. It was a friend of mine. But when she walked off, it was quite comical.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
favorite cop car. I can do that one next. It's my current one. I think that was pretty obvious. It's that EcoBoost. It's a 3.0. They went smaller on the engine, but still good output. The all-wheel drive on that, man. It's even at high speeds. You know, I don't like driving fast because I've crashed before, but when you're fast, man, it's stuck to the ground. I'm so impressed by that thing. It's got a federal signal package in it. The lighting is just, it's brighter than our stuff that has an overhead bar. Oh, wow. We talk all the time about it. Like it is. Chief got a complaint last week. His lights are too bright. Oh, bummer. You saw him? Oh, good. Good. You know, sometimes they come with that little low power setting, and I reprogrammed it to do other things. I'm like, I don't need that. Yeah. And now I'm like, I might need to add that back. But yeah, it's been an incredible unit. I've been in it for a year now, and it's no complaints other than the ride's a little stiffer. Yeah. But I'll take that. Yep.
Favorite cop movie or line from a cop movie?
Oh man. It's a line from a cop movie. It's not incredibly appropriate, but it kind of fits my personal life too. Okay. Find a chick that's down for you and won't fuck your friends. From End of Watch, and it's funny. It's just kind of replayed my life, but yeah.
John, great having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you are the boss. I mean, if you want to come on, it's just hey, I'm jumping on today. I love having you on.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was fun. Devin, great to see you. We miss you. You did a great job for us.
No, you don't have to lie to these people. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
A whole lot coming up. You know, we've got a new board, several new board members. We're going to be pushing out information about that, giving shouts out to, again, the conference, the sponsors, and man, shout out to past president Lawncraft. Just an amazing, I was shocked when I heard the announcement of how much money he was donating to our kids and to benefit this organization's next legacy, right? So anyway, we are going to try to continue to recover from conference. Seems like some of us are sick. I don't want to say the C word, but maybe the flu. I don't know, but again,
there's something else going around, man. I had something that was sick for 5 days, and the cough lingered for like 8 weeks.
Yeah,
and it tested negative on everything.
Crud going around.
Just, maybe cedar fever. I don't know. We are in Central Texas, but anyway, you guys take care, stay safe. Reach out if you ever need anything. God bless you, and as always, may God bless Texas.